Welcome everyone to Wrastlin Raw!
You're listening to Wrastlin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the World Wrestling Federation developed a little bit of an attitude. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
I hope you guys aren't perturbed about tonight's episode.
Joe Giammatteo.
Steve Austin is sweating like he's working for Kathy Lee Gifford.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett. We're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw at a time. But first, a very special shout out to our new listeners in Idaho. Thank you for showing up, you potato-picking bastards. We're glad to have you here. That just leaves Montana and Alaska. What is it about Montana and Alaska that just can't get their shit together and become Rawheads? Do it. Do it. In this episode of Wrastlin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on June 3rd, 1996. This Raw was recorded at the Cumberland County Memorial Auditorium in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and features Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right then, let's get into it. Mr. Johnson. Last week, amidst the lights, camera, and action, I saved your life, and now I hear you want my Intercontinental title. Well, here it is. Come and get it. This is being said by Goldust while laying naked amongst his feather boa and robes, with the Intercontinental title strategically placed to cover any areas of Goldust's body that might not be suitable for television. Welcome everyone to Monday Night Raw. And it is official, folks. Ahmed Johnson will be taking Goldust on for the Intercontinental Championship at the King of the Ring pay-per-view. But we will hear more from Goldust later, hopefully. We can't be fucking around right now because we need to go into our first match of the night. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeats Bob Holly by submission 9 minutes and 33 seconds in a King of the Ring qualifier match. As this match starts out, it's feeling like Austin has really embraced getting away from Ted DiBiase as he acts more like his Stone Cold gimmick. Stone Cold locks Bob Holly in a variety of holds to get things going, and at first, unfortunately, we are sitting in them for quite a while. But as the match went on, I became more and more involved in what was going on. Even though they just kind of fought through holds, it was still engaging. There was a sense of urgency in, for example, trying to get out of the leg lock. And I mean, that's just one example, but it applies to pretty much all of what they were doing here. The rope breaks were fantastic, small instances of character and energy coming through the simplest situations. This match was an amazing display of how great things can look with a firm grasp of the fundamentals. The flying elbow from Austin looked fantastic, as well as Austin's reversal of the rope work into a kick that looked great. We got a glimpse of that trademark Austin impatient get up gesture, which was usually being made with middle fingers. No middle fingers in this example, though. We'll cut to commercial, and as we do, we get a split-second, just fleeting view of Goldust, again, nude with the belt draped over him. And then we come back to Bob Holly. Bob Holly's rallying, and his rally looked pretty good too. I've given a lot of credit to Austin during this match, but Bob Holly was no slouch in it either. And before you know it, Austin was imitating Bob Backlund's "I'm gonna get you" approach as he locked in the $1 Million Dream sleeper to get the submission and the victory. Austin spends some time jawing at the hard camera, and that's it for this match. Guys, I was thoroughly entertained by this match, and at face value, it doesn't seem like that should have worked, but as I said earlier, the mastery of the fundamentals will never fail you, and I feel that this match had that going on for it. Ryan, please, what did you think of our show opener?
Well, it started out and, we ended last week's Raw with Bob Holly. We got to see him and we started off with the stairway jobber himself right here against Stone Cold. And, we know that he's going to be jobbing out to the rising star Stone Cold. We know that from the beginning. But, even the announcers, they don't really pick up to about halfway through this match before they actually start focusing on it, which is a shame because this was really entertaining. The holds were put on a little bit long, but I agree with what you were saying, and it was just, performing the simple things to a great degree is what these two were doing. And as much as we joke about Bob Holly, he is a ring veteran. He might not be given too many headliners, but he doesn't look bad in the ring when he's going most of the time. I am happy that they were mentioning Ted DiBiase being gone because, now we could really focus on Stone Cold. And it's not like I'm, reading the future like Nostradamus here that he doesn't need Ted DiBiase, but just progressing to that point, we now know he's shedding Ted DiBiase and he's going to get to move on to better things. And I loved Stone Cold's backbreaker. He held Holly up on his shoulders for a minute and then fully extended him up and just brought him down, and Holly sold it great too. I thought that was a high point of this match. And another thing that caught my eye, Stone Cold went up for his standard double axe handle off the second rope. And when he did that, there was a row of, maybe a dozen teenager, early 20s kids who all stand up and they're just cheering and pointing at him. So you could see that the crowd is starting to appreciate the work he's putting in the ring. Even though he was playing this, douchebag with Ted DiBiase, he's still getting people to cheer for him just because he is that good in there. And it can't go unrecognized. So I thought that was pretty cool to see. And then sure enough, he puts Bob Holly out with the $1 Million Dream, which is sad to see. And I do think as we lead up to the King of the Ring, with the infamous or famous 316 moment, it does seem that we're not going to get that full transition until then. Like there's no brief lead up because what we're going to be here for a few weeks right until King of the Ring, right?
Yeah, we've got a couple weeks here. Yeah.
I guess we're not going to get the music change. We're not going to maybe get him talking on the mic all that much until he actually wins that. So really solid match. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, a lot of my notes kind of relate to that last point you made here is we're still kind of getting that ringmaster / Steve Austin type thing instead of the full-blown Stone Cold Steve Austin. No middle fingers, no trash talking, none of that stuff yet, but we're real close. And I'm really looking forward to that because it's only a couple weeks away. It's hard to believe that we're already there in our watching here. So that's exciting. And especially with the $1 Million Dream going away because, the whole I'm going to get you thing and then the $1 Million Dream is just not that intimidating, really, to be honest. So
it's really not. No.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. This match wasn't anything, I don't think it was anything great, but I have yet to really dislike any Stone Cold Steve Austin match up to this point.
Well, something that I kind of disliked was something that happened at Raw last week. At the end of the match with the Ultimate Warrior and Goldust, Jerry Lawler made an approach towards the Warrior for reasons unknown. And here we get the news that Gorilla Monsoon, the WWF president that gives the fans what they want, is supposedly booking a match where the Ultimate Warrior will take on Jerry Lawler at the King of the Ring pay-per-view. It's kind of argued about there. Jerry insists that maybe it's not happening, and it goes back and forth there at commentary. But after pitching the comic books for Warrior a little bit, we start to hear Hava Nagila play in the background. So before we move on, Ryan, just briefly, are you any more informed or interested in what's going on between the Ultimate Warrior and Jerry the King Lawler?
Not really. I mean, how could that be interesting at all with the feuds that we've seen the King in and the Ultimate Warrior? The only thing interesting here was the King's cartoon, because if I remember hearing from JR, the King is a really good cartoonist, so I have to believe that he actually did that cover of him stepping on the Ultimate Loser. So that's, outside of that, no, nothing too interesting here.
Yeah, I have that too. It's cool to see Jerry Lawler's work on display there, his cartoon sketch. I know both him and Bret Hart both sketch cartoons, and they're both really good at it. So that was pretty cool.
I didn't know that about Bret Hart. Well, guys, get out your yarmulke. It's time for our next match. Mankind defeats Barry Horowitz by submission in 3 minutes and 58 seconds. This segment gets going with Vince McMahon kicking it to Jim Ross, who apparently knows Mankind better than anyone else here in the WWF. A match has been set between The Undertaker and Mankind as a result of the way the casket match ended at the Beware of Dog pay-per-view, that being Mankind costing The Undertaker the victory and the Intercontinental title. Our match here starts out with Mankind taking it to Barry Horowitz. Barry tries to get things off to a strong start with a couple of decent moves, but Mankind quickly dominates. And I had to note again, this isn't the first time I've said it here, Mankind is in great shape here, and he's really soaking in the gimmick, allowing the Mankind persona to influence the moves in the ring. What would have been a choke off the ropes, for example, turns into almost like a somersault neck breaker over the ropes to just, transition that choke into something a little more devastating, a little more sadistic. Mankind wailing and grunting the whole time. We take a break for a commercial and get a classic WWF tour commercial. This is the Attitude Adjustment Tour. Very, very 90s. And back in the match, we come back from commercial just as Mankind is applying the mandible claw, which causes Barry Horowitz to submit. A short match here, guys. Again, 3 minutes and 58 seconds with a commercial thrown in there. The gentle, soothing music starts to play as Mankind sits in the center of the ring. Our time with Mankind isn't quite over yet, but this match is. So before we move along, Joe, what did you think of this match?
Well, this match served its purpose, getting Mankind over in a squash jobber match versus Barry Horowitz. They're basically doing everything with Mankind that they should be doing with Vader. Someone like that.
Yeah.
Even though Mankind's not a monster heel, but it's still like who has yet to threaten Mankind at this point? Nobody. So
not even The Undertaker.
Right. And that's why it's so great right now. And Jim Ross, I know all of us prefer him on commentary, but it's really nice to see him in this role because he's really good at this, being that Mankind specialist, I guess.
Yeah. The handler.
Yeah, the handler. Yeah. He's really good at that role. So yeah, that's great. It's a great promo too from Mankind. I don't want to play spoiler, but is this going to be the Boiler Room match or is that later?
I think that's later.
Yeah, that's later.
Okay. There's just so much to look forward to with Mankind and Undertaker. So this is all good stuff.
I can't agree more. It's a shame to see Barry Horowitz come out here because immediately, just like old Bob Sparkplug Holly, he's just going to be jobbed out here to Mankind. And that's precisely what happens. And I mean, he's clearly no longer getting his push. That was almost a year ago at this point, right?
Yeah. SummerSlam 95, around that time.
Poor Barry. But yeah, to give Mankind his credit, very solid in the ring. And so was Barry Horowitz. It was just, this wasn't going to last long at all. And we cut to that commercial and, it really is amazing sometimes we bring something up and we don't watch ahead. I mentioned these commercials not being here and then the next 3 weeks we have them.
Yeah.
It was great to see that little 90s commercial thrown in there in between and we come back and Mankind immediately just has the mandible claw, which Vince is now calling it the mandible claw now as well. But very solid match. And, Joe, you said how this is what they should have been doing with Vader. And you couldn't be more right because what I thought of is this is your standard boilerplate thing you follow when you're trying to build up a heel feud against a huge star. You make him a monster that just annihilates everyone in his path up until that match. I don't know why they didn't follow it with Vader here, but they decided not to. But they're doing it correctly with Mankind, that's for sure.
Well, with Vader, they had to get him with Yokozuna so they could use the line, "Look at all that beef in the ring."
They had to use that forklift.
Yeah.
They didn't want to lose the deposit on it. All right. Well, as I said, we weren't quite done with Mankind yet because Jim Ross is going to come out to interview Mankind in the ring immediately after his match. Jim asks Mankind if he has any comments about The Undertaker, and Mankind cuts a great promo on The Undertaker, the theme here being that Undertaker has never faced someone that has nothing left to lose. The Undertaker can't take Mankind's ear because it's already gone. Can't take his teeth because they're already gone. And there's an amazing scene where Mankind is staring at a clump of his own hair and the camera at the same time, saying that of all the things he's lost in life, he thinks he misses his mind the most. And this is more or less the end of the promo segment as Jim Ross walks away shaking his head. But let's also now take a look at 1 week ago, that debacle that was the championship match between Shawn Michaels and the British Bulldog. This is going to highlight the shenanigans of the finish there in the form of a complete recap and retelling of it, all adding up to the fact that there will be a rematch at the King of the Ring pay-per-view. And, there was some action going on in the ring. I thought it was going to be time to move on, but then, out of nowhere, we have to cut to Goldust in his den of iniquity, laying there stroking the Intercontinental Belt. And then Goldust giving Ahmed Johnson mouth-to-mouth in a quick video reference to last week.
Ahmed hadn't drowned, his heart hadn't stopped, yet Goldust performs mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Bob Holly got in Ahmed's way. Some poor bodyguard got in Ahmed's way. We get a replay of both of those events. It was great watching that bodyguard get blasted through the door again.
Last week's highlight for me.
The slam of the week.
And now back to Goldust's den. Goldust is very pleased with himself for saving Ahmed's life. His heart of gold prevented him from allowing Ahmed to expire. Goldust licks a chocolate bar,
Jeez.
saying he shares the taste for Ahmed Johnson. Then Lawler chimes in to let us know that the Red Cross is going to present Goldust a Medal of Honor for his efforts, because he acted like a true nurse. When Vince asks about the match at King of the Ring, Goldust responds that it will be him and the mighty Mandingo.
Ooh.
Dated reference there. And Goldust will be holding that golden Wonka ticket. Ahmed will melt like chocolate in Goldust's mouth. And he will never forget the name of Goldust. Guys, there is a lot to go over here. So, Joe, what did you think about Jim Ross's interview with Mankind, the upcoming Michaels Bulldog rematch, and this bizarre Goldust interaction?
With Mankind and Goldust delivering these promos for us. I've said it before, both Mick Foley and Dustin Runnels, they understand delivery and timing when they're doing their promos, and they're both pretty great. Like you mentioned, Goldust's have a few dated references in there that are a little questionable, but this comes off as extremely creepy and perverted, and that's really what it's supposed to be. So, I mean, just talk about a guy just doing what they tell him to do,
Going balls deep in it.
Yeah. Man, he owned it. Unbelievable.
I think you rightfully skipped the Shawn Michaels Bulldog rematch.
On purpose, yes.
Yeah, because it's, who cares? Like we said last week. But the Mankind promo, I mean, Bartlett, you laid out, him talking about everything he missed. And then when he said, the thing I missed the most is my mind or whatever, and then he squeals like a pig. Just fantastic promo. Goldust, though, as much as I enjoy Mankind, Goldust kind of stole the show in this segment. You both said, talk about going all the way in on this gimmick. Fucking completely naked except for that belt covering it up, and he's just rubbing himself and sucking on the chocolate, and I mean, he's just unbelievable.
It is Den, as
It
Vince
is
said.
Den. And I did not remember that Goldust went this far. I mean, I remembered, I remembered Goldust, but I did not remember stuff like this. This was next level absurd, but in a great way. Amazing.
Yes, I was curious if you guys were going to mention this or not, and now I feel I have to take the bullet and point it out. Don't ask me how I know this, but Goldust was imitating Shawn Michaels' centerfold spread from his Playgirl pictorial.
I see.
Yeah.
Butt-ass naked with the belt across his crotch.
Was that on purpose? Like, is that what their intention was?
I don't know, but I kind of think it was. I think it was maybe just
I think if anyone, it was his
rib.
intention.
Yeah. Or at least maybe that's what inspired that idea anyway.
I didn't realize that, though. Thank you for, subscribing to
Playgirl
magazine and letting us know that.
Since you said it.
You took one for the team. I understand it.
I want to say, wasn't there like a ton of controversy around it back when it happened? Because they were showing that picture on TV.
They might have. I don't know.
With him,
yeah,
with
he
the
has
belt
like,
covering
he's naked
his
with the
crotch.
belt over. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It's always nice to meet fellow subscribers.
We're androgynous.
Well, we will come away from Goldust's den of iniquity to go into our next match. The Godwins, Henry and Phineas with Hillbilly Jim, defeat Techno Team 2000 by pinfall in 6 minutes and 24 seconds. Sunny is present on commentary for this match. She's got the tag team championship belts there with her, but not the actual champions. But before we can even get the action started in the ring, we are going to cut a backstage promo from the Body Donnas here. Skip and Zip are looking for a new manager. And according to Skip, whether it's man, woman, or child, the Body Donnas want you to send your application to an address in Stamford, Connecticut that they put up on the screen there for us. Coming back to the ring, Sunny cuts a great promo right back on the Body Donnas. And then we're allowed to get the match going. Things stick to the story here, though, that being Sunny. Sunny is the story of the entire tag team division, as Phineas can't stop staring at her. The action in the ring isn't bad. Techno Team 2000 did a fair job here working with the Godwins, but then it's time to go home, as Henry gets tagged in, gets the slop drop, the pin, and the 3 count. I can't state enough how much time was wasted with Phineas standing and staring at Sunny. In addition to that, this was a 6-minute match. The camera spent about 3 minutes on Sunny, focusing on Sunny. And then of the remaining 3 minutes, about 1.5 minutes of it was probably Phineas staring at Sunny. But considering how low cut Sunny's top was, I'm not necessarily complaining about that. Ryan, what did you think of this match?
The match starts and, just like Vince and the King, the crowd isn't interested in anything going on in this match. They're chanting for Sunny, even though she's just at the commentary table. She's not even walking around, nothing. And she's fucking eating it up. She loves every moment of it. The match finally does start, and I don't know, Techno Team's fucking bad. They're just really slow. They're 2 big lugs, and they're put together pretty well, but they just can't really do anything all that great. They almost look unathletic, which I know they're not. Last time we talked, they're football athletic at least, but maybe not wrestling. But I do think this is the last time that we're going to see them. I think I mentioned last time that their match against the Godwins is the last time we see them. So I think they're gone after that. At one point, one of the Techno Team 2000 guy tries to do a backwards flip onto, I think, Phineas. And he only makes it about halfway round. And then he sideways corkscrew belly flop it. And it looked kind of bad. It wouldn't have stood out as much if Vince didn't at that exact moment say to Sunny, "Are you sure you don't want to leave with Techno Team 2000? They're looking pretty impressive tonight." You couldn't have picked a worse time, Vince. Vince starts talking to Sunny there about why she has the belts, and she goes on saying she has an agreement with the Guns and basically tells us that the belts are hers. I mean, that's pretty much what she says here.
Yeah.
You know, Bartlett, last week you brought up that I believe it was Pritchard you were listening to.
Yeah.
You know, said that it was pretty much the Sunny division. And man, they couldn't have hammered that point home any stronger in this little back and forth between Vince and Sunny here. You know, Henry comes in and he looks great as always. Yeah, he looked fast and strong and he puts these bums away for the win pretty quickly. But yeah, I mean, it was an okay match, but again, just everything focused on Sunny.
Yeah, who could blame Phineas for being so distracted, you know? But yeah, it is all about her and it's working. I mean, like you said, Ryan, she doesn't even have to say anything or do anything. She's just sitting at the commentary table and there's a chant going for her. Mm-hmm. So it's working. I mean, we can not like it because the casualty here is the tag team division, but it's getting someone over big time. So the other thing I heard on a Pritchard podcast was that he said, I feel like I remember him saying they put Sunny with the Smoking Guns because they felt like the Smoking Guns like needed that extra charisma. Like they didn't quite have it with the crowd. They weren't connecting. And I don't know if I agree with that, but maybe they weren't comfortable being drugstore cowboys, you know, fake rodeo guys. I don't know.
But I mean, but if that was the case, why would you give them a manager that basically strips them of the belts and makes them hers?
Right.
You know what I mean?
But I think it just opened my eyes to the fact that they just didn't really have much confidence in the Smoking Guns. Like, and I just didn't realize that. But I mean, this is proof. And I think none of us have any confidence in Techno Team 2000 because they fucking suck.
No.
Yeah, not much to add to that. I agree with everything you guys have said here. And one thing that I would point out, and Joe, you mentioned this a long time ago. I couldn't even tell you how many months ago you mentioned it, probably at her debut. One thing we kind of glossed over here is that Sunny was pretty damn good on commentary.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I really used to like seeing her on like those Saturday morning shows that she would host. Yeah. She was really good at that.
Yeah, she was great with keeping up with conversation and improvising on the fly, especially with the King. Some of the banter between her and Jerry Lawler was pretty good in this.
Yeah.
Well, something that's not good in the least bit is Clarence Mason on the phone. We could barely understand Clarence. Clarence, I think, and please, gentlemen, correct me if I'm wrong on this, was accusing Gorilla Monsoon of assault and battery because Gorilla touched him while ushering Mason out of the arena. I can't remember if it was clearly explained before this or not, but I think this is why Clarence Mason had that neck brace and shoulder rig on at the Beware of Dog pay-per-view. I don't know. There wasn't much to go off of here, so just briefly, Ryan, please, what did you think about the way that we're keeping this angle alive and these kind of weird-ass turns they've taken with Clarence Mason?
They made it really bad. It was a bad turn. I mean, that's what I gathered too, though. What you said, I guess this is why he was all bandaged up at the pay-per-view, but very difficult to understand because the Godwin's music was still blaring over Clarence Mason when he was trying to explain it. But this just added nothing to this feud.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it. I'm sure this guy is a great lawyer and he was fine when he first came on the scene here, but man, I'm sick of Clarence Mason already. Now it's time to just cut ties. I think he's past his expiration date here in the WWF. Yeah, I mean, Gorilla Monsoon giving him that light shove and then we're going to make a big angle out of it. Like, come on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, guys, get out the shovels because you have to dig a hole before you can bury something. It's our final match of the night. Jake the Snake Roberts defeats Hunter Hearst Helmsley by pinfall in 9 minutes and 36 seconds in a King of the Ring qualifier match. There was a decent pop for Jake Roberts. He brought the crowd to life a little bit despite his strategically fitted vest covering up his beer gut. Hunter's valet's name for this was given as Jenny Lee, which made it pretty impossible to find relevant results on Google. In the match, I have to give it to Hunter. He forced Jake to take a pretty solid bump early on before doing his arrogant bow. Jake looked very amused. I'm not sure what the story behind that little sequence was, if it was planned that way or if Hunter, like I said, forced Jake to take a harder bump than he usually does, but it was a pretty great thing to watch. And then, not for the first time, the story of this match becomes the dodging of the DDT. That's Jake the Snake's MO, it seems, in this run. The wrist lock that we sat in for a minute wasn't all that great in effect, but you wouldn't really know it by how well Hunter Hearst Helmsley worked it. It was amazing how well Hunter could make Jake look good here. Vince, on commentary, mentioned something here about a ruse from former WWF superstars Diesel and Razor Ramon. Did you guys pick up on that?
I did.
I did not. I read in the Observer that Vince said this, but I missed it.
Okay, I caught it. My thought was this could only be like the first hints of the fake Diesel, fake Razor bullshit. Yeah. It's got to be, right?
Yes. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I don't know that for a fact, but I will touch on this again shortly. We're going to break for commercial in the match here and come back to Jake blown up and flopping around at the mercy of Hunter Hearst Helmsley. To work through it, we spend time with Hunter trying unsuccessfully to pin Jake and then complaining to the ref about it while Jake lays there and catches his breath. Hunter ends up with a headlock on Jake. Jake tries to weakly rally the crowd, but it doesn't work. Once Jake is back on his feet, they tease another DDT to no avail. And then we break to commercial to get an ad for the Superstar line. Doc has apparently moved his cocaine jam into voiceover territory because that's what we get here. And this is going to get back to the Razor and Diesel thing. If you want to call into the Superstar line, you can find out if you choose option 6 how Vince McMahon responded to Billionaire Ted's latest corporate raid. That's $1.49 per minute to hear Vince whining about being a victim yet again. But the reason why I said I would come back to it is maybe the corporate raid, the fact that Vince might have just found out that Kevin Nash and Scott Hall went to WCW? Or would he have known before this?
Nah, he had to have known the moment they said that they weren't, signing. Yeah. That's where they were going. Yeah. And if I remember correctly, there was, at least as far as Kevin Nash is concerned, he said in an interview that he directly talked with Vince and was kind of like, here's what they're offering me. And Vince was like, yeah, I can't match it. So I guess goodbye.
Okay.
Yeah, this is kicking off the whole thing about Nash and Hall portraying themselves as the stars that they were in WWF on WCW TV.
New lawsuits.
These are new lawsuits. Huge lawsuit. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I had maybe tried to connect that really cryptic line about the ruse of former superstars Diesel and Razor Ramon with this reference to the corporate raid. So that's why I kind of tried to put 2 and 2 together there, but I guess it didn't come together to make 4. Just when you think you're away from the fucking Billionaire Ted shit, you get a hint. Anyway, we come back from that commercial just in time to see Jake Roberts finally land the DDT on Hunter Hearst Helmsley, getting the pin and the 3 count. Next week on Raw, Owen Hart will be taking on Yokozuna, and we end this episode with Jake draping his snake all over Hunter, threatening to shove the snake down the front of Hunter's pants as we fade to black. Joe, please, what did you think of our final match and the way that Raw ended tonight?
Well, you guys can use your shovels. I'm going to use a tiller or an auger maybe to get this done a little faster. This is the ultimate burial of Hunter Hearst Helmsley. My God. This is bad all around. The one thing that I did like was Helmsley's escaping from the DDT a couple times. I thought it was pretty impressive and different. He was kind of like ducking backwards to get out of it a couple times. It really just shows his true ability to sell. But this whole thing is just very strange to me. I understand what these guys did was terrible for the business and everything, but to punish a guy who is on his way up in your company, you're kind of punishing yourself too when you do this. if he was like a total jobber like Aldo Montoya, then yeah, I could see, humiliating someone publicly. But
well, and to me, it's like if you really want to make a point to everyone in the locker room, then you should have actually punished the person with the belt and took it off him or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Kind of on that point. It's like, well, we can't do anything to Shawn because he's our champion. So we're just going to punish you.
Yeah. We'll just use him as a scapegoat here.
Yeah. Either punish both or nobody. Yeah. With Helmsley losing clean in the middle of the ring to Jake the Snake in 1996. Like, come on. That is just awful. But like I've said before, Helmsley ultimately got Vince back by propositioning his daughter, marrying her, reproducing with her. So, I mean, he won in the end, I guess.
He did.
He truly did.
When this match started, I see Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Jake the Snake come down, and I said to myself, oh no, because I knew we were deep into the downward spiral of Hunter, and he was obviously going to have to do the honors here to Jake the Snake, this washed up, out of shape shell of a former star. And it was a shame. It was mostly time wasting. The only time that we're not just allowing Jake the Snake to get his breath, it's Hunter doing things. He's the one doing anything in this match, and anything that even looked okay was because of him. And the guys on commentary, they were not all that interested in talking about this match either. At one point, Vince and the King go off on a lengthy talk about the Ultimate Warrior's comic book. And Vince even brings up, this was something I really got a good chuckle over. Vince says, this comic book's pretty deep. You got to know about the planes of Destrucity. And then again says that the Ultimate Warrior has revolutionized the comic book industry. And I again puked in my mouth just a little bit.
We should be going on America Online and the 900 number and talking about Vince lying to us about that.
Vince has been barred from that. Remember, he was vulgar and people didn't like him last time he was on AOL. But to the match, slow, boring stuff. Jake, I mean, it was the whole match, but there's this one point where Hunter punches Jake and he's supposed to fall, I guess. But he looks like an old person that's starting to fall, and they're kind of like crumbling and like trying to catch themselves. That's what he looked like. It was just really bad. And then unbelievable, he lands the DDT, and Joe, you said fucking clean, goddamn pinned in the ring, Hunter. Unbelievable. Yeah, I understand he needed punished, but this was a slow match, and we allowed a terrible over-the-hill wrestler to go over on a good wrestler for punishment.
I like when they started talking about the comic book, like right before that, Lawler was making he made a Batman reference, I think. Yeah. And that's when Vince was like, oh, you've been reading his comic book, huh?
Yeah. And then he Lawler made some smart ass comment about him not knowing anything about comic books.
Right.
Well, the one thing that I would tack on here is not just clean in the middle of the ring, but clean in the middle of the ring and then followed up by the snake.
And then snaked. Yep.
Almost in his pants.
Almost down the crotch of his pants. I thought it was going to happen. I really did, considering, the story of the burial and everything. I thought they were going to also try to castrate him by snake.
I was almost waiting for Vince to stand up and give him the Caesar thumbs down.
Well, guys, as I said, that ended our show for tonight. We're going to take it on over now to highlights and lowlights. Ryan, please go first.
Well, for highlight, I usually try not to do the same thing 2 weeks in a row, but I got to go with Goldust again. He didn't wrestle here at all, but everything he did tonight was just so hilarious, and he just put fucking everything into it. Great stuff from him. He got to take the highlight. The low light, the burial of Hunter Hearst Helmsley, him having to sit there and just take the DDT and get snaked by Jake the Snake out there had to be the low light for me.
Yeah, I didn't really, I didn't think this episode of Raw was very good, but Goldust and Mankind promos in particular really stood out as highlights for me, which is kind of a shame because it doesn't involve any wrestling at all, but those were the highlights for me. The low light is just like you, Ryan, this burial. It's not believable for them to have a match for that long and actually believe that Jake can beat Hunter Hearst Helmsley clean in the middle of the ring.
Especially seeing his face and him bent over 30 seconds into the match. He's blown up completely.
Yep.
I'm going to differ in one thing with you guys. Well, a couple things, but a pretty big thing. I thought this was a fairly strong Raw. I mean, not across the board, but the burial of Hunter didn't bother me because I was kind of expecting it. And even the tag team match, I don't know, it didn't.
Techno Team 2000?
Yeah, didn't really bother me all that much for whatever reason. So I picked examples of how things are working and not working in the storytelling department here because we had two really great examples of it. My low light is this Clarence Mason angle. While I realize that it's technically the more realistic of my two examples, I just feel it's way too ridiculous and cliched. It's not believable to me at all, and it's not engaging in the least bit. It is a prime example of just lazy maybe not lazy, but just shitty storytelling. On the other side of the coin, my highlight is fucking Goldust, because for some fucking reason, I'm just not questioning that at all. I'm engaged. I'm sold on the angle. Whatever the fuck you want to call it, it is working for me. I'm not questioning how they have a camera in Goldust's den of iniquity and just so happen to catch him at the time when he's naked and stroking himself. These questions don't pop into my mind at all because I'm just buying into it, and I don't even have to try to buy into it. They're doing that well at it. So,
and that credit has to go to Dustin Reynolds. I mean,
yeah.
The way he is portraying Goldust, it keeps you riveted in his performance. He's doing a great job. And it's fitting that he's supposed to be this Hollywood actor character.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting that is what is good. But meanwhile, this Clarence Mason thing, like I said, I mean, that's the more realistic of the two. What do they call it? A frivolous lawsuit, an ambulance chaser suing for anything that he can get. That's believable. That happens every day. That's reality. But no, I'm more invested in this fucking weirdo in his den.
Well, you'll be getting a Techno Team 2000 action figure for Christmas this year.
They're probably pretty rare. They only minted 3 or 4 of those.
Did they even exist at all? They couldn't.
Oh, I don't know. They might have.
It'd be interesting to maybe make customs.
No, I can 3D print them.
Ooh, an NFT. Make an NFT. Those are big right now, aren't they?
I think.
Yeah. Techno Team 2000 NFT. It'll be the rarest fucking thing in the world because nobody else will think to make one.
Or want to have one.
All right. Joseph, do you have any contemporary Wrasslin news from on and around June 3rd, 1996 for us?
Yes, we have discussed the burial of Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and I just wanted to point out that Dave Meltzer in The Observer, I'd like to give him credit because he is already calling that out in The Observer magazine. So it's already a known thing at this point, and he's only lost his last 2 matches. So we'll see how long that continues. We also discussed the Vince McMahon comments about Razor Ramon on WCW. In addition to those comments he made on this episode of Raw, WWF released a legal letter sent to Scott Hall, which informed Hall they believed he was infringing on Titan's intellectual property rights by still portraying the Razor Ramon character in WCW, and that Titan would be withholding all future payments they owe to Scott Hall until the matter is settled. So this is kicking off that lawsuit that is going to continue for, I think, quite some time, if I remember correctly. And WWF will win that lawsuit. And I remember, hearing that Jerry McDevitt, the attorney for Vince McMahon, made the comment that that's the money they used to buy WCW. So we'll keep an eye on that. Speaking of WCW, there is some talk that Ted DiBiase will be brought into the WCW with the gimmick name of Zillionaire Ted. That's got to be somebody ribbing Dave Meltzer. Back to WWF. Guys, remember last week I reported that Davey Boy Smith, this story between him and Shawn Michaels, the payoff was going to be that Diana made up the whole story and that Shawn turned her down.
Right.
Well, this upset the two of them so much that Davey Boy Smith actually gave his notice to Vince McMahon.
Wow.
Jeez.
I think it's just the whole storyline in general, maybe not necessarily that ending, but he's just fed up with this story and gave his notice. Now, I know that he's going to stay, so they obviously worked that out, but I just wanted to point out that he wanted to fucking quit. Speaking of the Hart family, you guys remember Jim Neidhart?
Sure.
He is going to be debuting a new gimmick on June 23rd.
Really?
So don't get too excited.
I don't remember that, but
Yeah. I'm pretty
We'll
curious
see.
to hear what that's going to be.
do you have the gimmick's name?
I do not.
Just
that is all that.
A new gimmick.
Yeah, it's going to debut a new gimmick on June 23rd.
Interesting.
Okay.
Ultimate Warrior missed the weekend shows this past weekend due to a shoulder injury. I mean, after looking at those shoulders that he has in 96, he probably exploded from the steroids that he was pumping into them. Do you guys remember the last time we saw Make a Difference Fatu and
he had his
his family members? Remember what those guys were called? Well, they didn't say it on TV, but
But from the Erie show.
The Gangstas?
the Gangstas in Paradise.
Gangstas in Paradise, that's it.
Well, guys, they're already gone. It's
Oh, wow.
it's over.
Including Fatu?
It didn't even get started. Fatu's still there, but
Okay.
apparently Samu was going to be suspended for violating a company policy. So it wound up that both Samu and the other guy just fucking quit. So I will end the news on Wrastlin' Raw's one of our favorite sayings, we'll pretend it never happened.
That's awesome.
By the way, I did look up Techno Team 2000 never did get an action figure. They did
Nah.
get trading cards, but no action figure.
Well, that's a nice present for Bartlett, I think.
Yeah.
Trading cards.
That whole thing with Diana Smith, is that the one where somebody ended up getting a phone call from Stu Hart and he was saying something along the lines of, "You trying to say my daughter's a whore?"
That's possible, yeah. Because it said something about, I guess, like the whole Hart family was unhappy with this situation. So,
Okay.
yeah, it could have been that. Yeah.
You trying to say she's a whore?
A hooer.
A whore. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrastlin' Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know how much cooler they would be if they became Rawheads like you and me. Next week on Wrastlin' Raw, we're going to be doing our Christmas episode. For those of you out there that have been with us from the beginning, we like to sit down and put the wrestling aside for Christmas and get each other our Mount Crushmores, which we will go into next week in our special Christmas episode. After that, we take a week off to do traveling to visit family. So, whenever we come back, we'll be taking a look at June 10th, 1996. The Monday Night Raw that aired then featured Yokozuna, The Undertaker, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrastlin' Raw.